2 a.m. in a run-down auto shop on the edge of Detroit. Rain hammering the tin roof, one flickering bulb swinging overhead. Mike Harlan's wiping grease off his hands when the old wall phone rings. Not his cell. The landline nobody's used in years. He picks it up. Static. Then a woman's voice, faint, broken, whispering right in his ear. "Get me out of this body." He laughs it off, hangs up. But the next night, same time, it rings again. This time the voice says something that stops his heart cold. "Your little girl, she's listening right now." He races home through the empty streets, bursts into his daughter's bedroom. 7-year-old Lily is sitting up in the dark, eyes closed, phone pressed to her ear, whispering back in a voice that isn't hers. "Daddy's home." What happens next will make you check your own phone tonight and pray it doesn't ring.
Let me tell you a story that happened in the heart of Detroit's fading industrial belt, where the factories stand like tombstones and the nights are long and unforgiving. It was one of those brutal winter evenings when the rain didn't just fall, it hammered down, turning the potholed streets into slick rivers of black oil that reflected the city's dim lights like a bad dream. Harlan's Auto Repair was the last flickering beacon on a dead-end block, sandwiched between crumbling brick warehouses and rusted chain-link fences that rattled in the wind. The place smelled of grease and rust, a reminder of better times when the assembly lines hummed and men like Mike Harlan had steady work. Mike was 42, a big guy with broad shoulders honed from years of lifting engines and fixing what the world broke. His hands were scarred maps of calluses and old cuts, and his quiet eyes hid the weight of too many layoff notices and too few paychecks. The shop was his lifeline, the only thing keeping the bills at bay after the big plants shut down. Sarah, his wife of 12 years, worked double shifts at Detroit General Hospital as an ER nurse. She came home with dark circles under her eyes, carrying stories of trauma she never shared and exhaustion she wore like a second skin. Their daughter, Lily, had just turned 7. She was a bright-eyed girl with blonde curls and a belief in magic. Monsters under the bed were real, but Mommy's hugs could chase them away. That night, Mike was working late again, elbow deep in a busted transmission under a single bare bulb that swayed on its cord, casting eerie shadows across the oil-stained concrete floor. The rain pounded the tin roof like impatient fingers tapping for attention. At exactly 2:03 a.m., the old rotary wall phone rang. The sound cut through the storm like a shard of glass. No one used that number anymore. Customers texted, suppliers emailed, and the line was practically a relic from the 80s. Mike paused, wiping his hands on a rag, staring at the phone as if it had suddenly come alive. It rang again, sharp and demanding, echoing in the empty garage. He lifted the receiver, expecting a wrong number, or maybe a telemarketer who didn't know when to quit. Static hissed like breath fogging a cold window. Then a woman's voice filtered through, thin, cracked, almost polite, the way someone whispers when they're on their last breath. "Get me out of this body." Mike let out a short, uneasy laugh that echoed hollowly in the garage. "No, wrong number, ma'am. Try again." He hung up, the receiver clicking back into place with finality. But the line didn't stay dead. A low, wet chuckle bubbled up from the cradle before silence returned, like someone laughing with a throat full of water, amused at a joke only they understood. Mike shook his head, telling himself it was just fatigue playing tricks. He unplugged the cord for good measure, the prongs coming out with a pop. The bulb overhead buzzed louder for a moment, as if protesting. He packed up and drove home through fog so thick it swallowed his headlights. the streets empty, and the world feeling smaller, more claustrophobic. The next night, same routine, same rain, same swaying bulb. At 2:03 a.m., the phone rang again. The cord still dangled loose on the floor, unplugged and harmless. Mike's heart skipped. He answered, voice low and edged with anger. Who the hell is this? The voice was stronger now, laced with amusement. Your little girl. She's listening right now. The wrench slipped from his fingers, clanging on the concrete like a gunshot. Mike's world tilted on its axis. He didn't hang up. He ran, keys in hand, truck roaring to life as he peeled out of the lot. The drive to their modest ranch house in Warren, a quiet suburb north of the city, felt like an eternity. Empty streets slick with rain, flickering streetlights casting long shadows that seemed to follow him, fog pressing against the windshield like invisible hands trying to hold him back. He burst through the front door, boots tracking mud across the living room carpet, heart pounding in his ears. Sarah met him in the hallway, her bathrobe tied tight, eyes already filled with worry from years of late-night calls about accidents or breakdowns. "Mike, you're drenched. What's wrong? Is it the shop?" He pushed past her without a word, straight to Lily's room at the end of the hall. The pink nightlight glowed softly, casting a rosy hue on the walls covered in crayon drawings. Lily sat upright in bed, her eyes closed as if still asleep, the cordless kitchen phone pressed to her ear. She wasn't speaking into it. She was listening, head tilted slightly. Then her small lips moved, and the woman's voice came out, soft, intimate, wrong in a child's mouth. "Daddy's home." Sarah appeared in the doorway behind him, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a gasp. Mike snatched the phone from Lily's hand. The line was dead. No dial tone, no call log, just silence. Lily blinked awake, rubbing her eyes with tiny fists. "I dreamed about a lady who's really cold, Mommy. She wants to borrow my blanket because hers is all wet." Sarah rushed forward, pulling Lily into her arms. "It was just a dream, baby. Go back to sleep." But Sarah's arms trembled as she held her daughter, her nurse's instincts screaming that this was something far worse than a nightmare. That was only the beginning. The calls didn't stop. They multiplied, invading their lives like a plague. Every night, at exactly 2:03 a.m., the ringing came. Sometimes from the shop line, sometimes from the house phone, sometimes from Sarah's cell, even when it was powered off and buried deep in her purse at the hospital. The voice grew bolder with each call, whispering secrets it shouldn't know. Lily's favorite unicorn stuffed animal named Sparkles, Sarah's childhood nickname Sare Bear that only her late mother had used, Mike's recurring nightmare about drowning in black engine oil while the factory lights flickered out one by one. Sarah barely slept anymore. She sat vigil by Lily's bed, the lights on full, an open Bible on her lap, the pages from her Catholic confirmation days she hadn't touched in 20 years, now her only anchor. Mike tried every practical fix he could think of. He changed their numbers twice, bought new devices, even smashed the old ones with a hammer in the backyard, shards flying like broken promises. But the ringing always returned, once from inside a locked kitchen drawer, once echoing from the walls as if the house wiring had come alive with malice, once under the fridge where no cord or phone existed, the sound muffled but insistent. A gray, overcast afternoon, Sarah came home from her shift early, her uniform still spotted with the day's chaos. She found Lily at the kitchen table, crayons scattered across the wood like fallen soldiers. The drawing was chilling. 3 stick figures, Mommy, Daddy, Lily, holding hands in a tight circle. Above them hovered a black telephone with long, spindly legs like a giant spider, its cords wrapping around their necks, pulling them upward into darkness. Lily looked up with her calm blue eyes, as if nothing was wrong. "She says she likes my voice best," the child said simply, adding a final black scribble to the phone. "It's small and sweet. She can fit inside easier, like putting on a coat." Sarah's legs gave out. She dropped to the floor beside the table, pulling Lily into her lap, holding her so tight the girl whimpered in protest. "No one's taking you," Sarah whispered fiercely, her voice breaking. "Not ever. Mommy won't let it happen. I'll fight with everything I have." That night, after Lily was tucked in, Sarah and Mike sat at the kitchen table, the room lit only by a single lamp that cast long shadows. "We need help," Sarah said, her hands shaking as she clutched a mug of cold coffee. "This isn't a prank. It's something evil." Mike nodded, his face pale. They called Father Ramirez, an old priest from St. Mary's Parish downtown. He'd helped a friend of Sarah's years ago with bad energy after a particularly rough hospital shift, and his name came up in whispers when things went bump in the night. The priest arrived the next evening in the pouring rain, his black coat dripping puddles on the porch, carrying a small leather case and the quiet authority of a man who'd stared into the abyss more times than he could count. He sat at the kitchen table with them, listening without interruption as Mike and Sarah poured out the story, the mysterious calls, the possession-like episodes with Lily, the voice that knew too much, Lily's disturbing drawings. When they finished, he looked through the doorway at Lily, who was coloring quietly in the living room, oblivious to the tension. "This is not a prank or a mental illness," he said softly, his voice steady. "It's an entity, a demon perhaps, using the telephone lines as a conduit to the living world. It feeds on invitation, on grief, on desperation. Once it latches on, it doesn't release easily. It jumps from vessel to vessel. It waits for weakness." Sarah leaned forward, her eyes pleading. "Can you stop it?" Father Ramirez nodded slowly. "We can try. An exorcism, right, but not the dramatic kind you see in movies. It's a battle of faith and will. But you must be strong, all of you." He prepared the living room that evening as the sun set, the sky turning a bruised purple. He drew a circle of salt on the hardwood floor, placed white candles at the 4 cardinal points, set a silver crucifix on the coffee table, and uncorked a vial of holy water that smelled faintly of incense in old stone churches. "Stay inside the circle," he instructed firmly. "No matter what you hear, what you see, or what it promises, do not break it. The entity will try to lure you out." Lily clung to Mommy's leg, her small face pale. "Mommy, I don't want to talk to her anymore. She makes my tummy hurt and my head feel funny."
Sarah knelt down, cupping Lily's face in her hands, kissing her forehead gently. "You won't have to, sweetheart. Mommy's going to make her go away for good. I promise." The hours until midnight crawled by like torture. The house grew colder with each passing minute, the temperature dropping unnaturally, breath fogging in the air even though the heater was on full blast. The candles burned steady at first, but their flames began to lean inward as if pulled by an unseen force, flickering erratically. At 2:03 a.m., the ringing began, not from a single phone, but from every direction at once. The walls vibrated with the sound. Floorboards creaked under invisible weight. The ceiling seemed to hum with the chorus of identical rings, overlapping, deafening, building to a crescendo that made teeth ache. Lily's head snapped back suddenly. Her eyes rolled until only the whites showed, gleaming in the candlelight. Her mouth opened wide, unnaturally wide, stretching at the corners, and the woman's voice erupted from her throat, loud, gleeful, intimate, echoing off the walls. "She's so warm inside, Sarah, so soft and inviting. I could slip in and never be cold again, never alone." Sarah dropped to her knees inside the circle, gripping Lily's small shoulders with white-knuckled hands. "No! You leave my daughter alone! Get out!" She began praying, fierce, stumbling, desperate words pouring out. "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Tears streamed down her face, hot against the cold air. She rocked Lily back and forth, forehead to forehead, willing her strength into the child. "Come back to me, baby. Fight it. Mommy loves you more than anything in the world. Come back to us."
Father Ramirez chanted in Latin, his voice steady and resonant, splashing holy water in wide arcs that sizzled on the floor. The room shook violently, furniture rattling, pictures falling from walls with crashes. The candles flared wildly, throwing grotesque shadows on the walls, clawed hands reaching out, twisted faces melting into darkness. Frost spiderwebbed across the windows in jagged, vein-like patterns, cracking the glass. The air filled with the smell of ozone and decay, like something rotting just out of sight. Lily convulsed, her small back arching like a bowstring pulled taut, limbs jerking violently as if strings were pulling them. The voice laughed through her throat, wet, choking, triumphant, a sound that sent chills down spines and made hair stand on end. Sarah refused to let go, her grip ironed despite the pain. She screamed prayers louder, her voice raw and breaking. "You can't have her. She's mine. Get out, you bastard!" Something in the air shifted, a pop like pressure releasing. Lily went limp, collapsing forward into Sarah's arms. Her eyes fluttered open, clear, blue, wide with fear, but their own. "Mommy, it's gone, but it was so cold inside, like ice in my bones." Sarah sobbed uncontrollably, clutching her daughter tight, rocking her as relief washed over her in waves. Mike dropped to his knees beside them, his arms enveloping both, his own tears silent. Father Ramirez lowered his crucifix, breathing heavily, sweat beading on his forehead. "The entity is expelled," he said quietly, his voice hoarse from the chanting. "For now, but stay vigilant. Pray daily. Protect your home with faith." They remained huddled in the circle until dawn leaked through the frosted curtains, the first light chasing away the shadows. Sarah rocked Lily until the girl fell asleep against her chest, her small breaths steady. Mike helped Father Ramirez gather his things, extinguishing the candles, sweeping up the salt, and walked him to his car in the gray morning light, the rain finally easing to a drizzle. "Thank you, Father. We owe you everything. You saved my family." "Faith is what you owe now," the priest replied solemnly, "and watch your family closely. These things, they don't always stay gone." Back inside, Sarah stood in the kitchen making tea, ordinary, human, safe actions to ground herself. She turned to Mike with a weary, relieved smile, her eyes shining with hope. "We did it. We saved her. It's over." Mike nodded, pulling her close, kissing her temple softly. "Yeah, we did. I love you." Then Sarah froze in his arms, her eyes locked on his face, widening in horror. "Mike, your eyes! Oh God, your eyes!" In the dark reflection of the microwave door, Mike's pupils had vanished, replaced by pure milky white, like cataracts from hell. He smiled slowly, a slow, wrong smile that stretched too wide. "You saved her," the voice said, layered over his own, pleased and ancient, echoing with malice. "You saved the child. Now I have a much better vessel, stronger, closer to you, closer to everything." Sarah backed away, her hand trembling as she bumped into the counter. "No, God, no, not you!" Mike stepped forward, his movements fluid and unnatural, like a puppet with new strings. "You fight it. Why? You wanted to save someone. You saved the child. Now save me. Let me in." Sarah lunged for the knife block on the counter, pulling the largest blade free with a metallic scrape. "Get out of my husband! Get out!" She swung wildly, the blade whistling through the air. The thing inside Mike was faster, inhumanly fast, dodging with a laugh that filled the room. Later, when the neighbor across the street finally called the police after hours of unnatural silence, broken only by one final blood-curdling scream that echoed through the suburb, the officers arrived to find the house eerily still, the front door ajar. 3 bodies lay in the kitchen, arranged in a perfect circle on the blood-smeared tile floor. Mike, Sarah, Lily, their eyes wide open, staring upward as if waiting for the next ring, expressions frozen in eternal terror. On the table sat the old rotary phone from the shop. Its cord trailed across the floor and disappeared under the fridge. No outlet, no power source, no logical reason for it to be there, or for the faint static hum emanating from it. One young officer, new to the force, reached toward it with a gloved hand. The phone rang, loud, piercing, vibrating the table. He jerked back, heart racing. No one answered. But in the weeks and months that followed, across Detroit and its sprawling suburbs, people began reporting the same inexplicable thing. Phones ringing at 2:03 a.m., a woman's voice whispering from the dark, pleading to be let out. Children answering in voices not their own, drawing pictures of black phones with spider legs. Families torn apart one ring at a time, possessions spreading like a virus. The caller hadn't been banished. It had simply found a new line, a new body, a new family. And it was still hungry, waiting for the next answer.